I'm here at the studios of KALW in San Francisco with Winona LaDuke. She's out with a new book, The Militarization of Indian Country. Winona is a member of the Ojibwe tribe, two-time vice presidential candidate with Ralph Nader on the Green Party ticket, and program director with Honor the Earth. So I know you're crunched for time. Let's just quickly talk about the fact that Native Americans have the highest rate of living veterans of any community in the country. An estimated 22% of Native Americans 18 or older are vets, yet I would assume that that's a surprise to a lot of people watching this. Why is that?
It's historically because there's a perception that Native people are better warriors. Not bad at that, but so there's a mystique attached to it. There's the fact that the U.S. has trained Native people from, like I say, from almost cradle with the boarding school era. It was based on a military model, largely. And then the economics. Most of our communities are very economically poor, and the military offers many of our people a way out. And that's historically, that forced indenturement that, is not uncommon in other communities. But the reality is that the military has frequently been drafted from the underclasses. That's the officers aren't, but the people who get killed are,
You write about the military and the people, the economy, the land. You say, how did we move from being the target of the U.S. military, both physically and when you look at what the military has done to Indian land, to being the U.S. military itself?
Yeah, we started out being in the Department of War, then we were moved to Department of Interior, and now we have this high rate of enlistment and we participate. But at the same time, if you look at the nomenclature of the military, the most recent example, of course, being Osama bin Laden, being called Geronimo as his code name. And if you look a little deeper, you find that, to leave the occupied territory of the military base is called to go off the reservation into Indian territory. Most of the missiles, or a good chunk of missiles, Tomahawk missiles, Black Hawk helicopters, Apache helicopters, named after the military. The military named them after Native people, and a good chunk of the bases, have obviously derived from the Indian Wars, and so you have kind of a very pervasive impact, in our communities. But perhaps the most significant, which I do talk about in the book, I'm interested in. I allude to kind of the social and the economic impact of the military, but really the issue of the land is so significant. Mm-hmm. The fact that most of the military land that is occupied today was taken from Indian communities, whether it's a Badlands bombing range, whether Fort Wingate, Fort Lewis, very big military base taken from the Nisqually people. Most of Nevada, Western Shoshone Territory, single largest nuclear weapons testing base in the world, all taken from Indian communities. So Indian communities had land taken from them, our wealth, our sacred lands, taken from us by the military, and then not in converse, but now we deal with the fact that the toxins that exist on those lands, military is exempt, has not cleaned up Hanford, nuclear waste, actually that's a DOE as opposed to DOD, but, most of these military bases are severely, severely contaminated, and they have succeeded in getting some exemptions, didn't get all the way through. They would have liked full exemption. But, that has a significant impact on our communities. I do say in the book, and I think it is known, that the biggest impact, really, the two biggest states of impact are Alaska, 1,900 toxic sites by the military, heavily impacting Native communities, and Hawaii, which is the single largest percentage level of occupation and the most continuous expansion of land grabbing. Big island land grabs over the past couple of years for the Stryker Brigade. Our communities heavily impacted on, by the military in those elements, let alone the federal budget. But, I encourage people, this is the book here, it's called The Militarization of Indian Country. It's released by Honor the Earth. You can get it. There's a new improved version, although still intended for popular education, coming out Michigan State in the fall. I wrote this book out of a debt to my father, who was a conscientious objector from the Korean War. And I also wrote this book as a debt to Indian country because I felt like it was a story that was not told. And, I'm probably not the most qualified person to tell it, but I'm the one who stuck my neck out So there you go.
Yes, you're one of the most qualified people to tell this story, and you can listen to our hour conversation really going in depth about the book and just about Winona LaDuke and the research that she did. We got a lot of interesting calls. You can find a link right under this video. Winona LaDuke is author of The Militarization of Indian Country. This is such important information that is not taught in schools. That's another reason why it's so important to get this book and then share it with friends and family. Winona is a 2-time vice presidential candidate with Ralph Nader on the Green Party ticket. We hope you run again, Winona. We need...
I'm running for tribal chair of my reservation.
You are?
That'd be
Okay.
enough. That's like
all right.
being president of a small, poor country.
You could probably do more for your tribe, considering the system that we're dealing with today.
That'd be enough for me.
And she's program director of Honor the Earth. Winona, thanks so much.
Thank you.